voice. Okay. Breathing in that peace and that ease in this moment for whatever may pop into this time together. We gather here together right now in love and friendship and peace and support, eagerness and openness, experiencing it all in fun and joy and deepening of spirit. I invite you to take part in a very short Buddhist breathing mantra, and you can say these words inwardly and then on your exhalation as you take some deep breaths in and out. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I know all is well. Breathing in, I calm my mind. Breathing out, I know all is well. Breathing in, I calm my spirit. Breathing out, I smile. And I invite you to maintain that smile and a light heart as Zach plays our opening song.
Orlinda, you are muted.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for hopefully enjoying a fun song there from Sesame Street. Everyone makes mistakes. Oh, yes, they do. Accepting and embracing our mistakes with peace and ease can lead to some important transformation in our lives, and that is our focus for today. So good morning to any of you that have just joined, and welcome to anyone who may be new today. I'm not seeing everyone on here, so not sure. So I'm going to change my view just 1 second here. So I'll see my script. All righty. I do want for now a moment to ask you to take a look at these items. And let me see here. All right, I want to make sure everybody can see it. We have here potato chips and a Slinky. Now, I will bet that you can guess what these two items have in common, right? Yeah, they were all mistakes. Great mistakes, I would say, especially the potato chips. Yeah, some of the most important inventions in our popular products that we use today were accidents stumbled on by clumsy scientists, messy chefs, or misguided inventors, who in some cases were actually trying to create the very opposite of what they ended up with. Have you ever felt like you have done that, created the very thing that was the opposite of what you thought you wanted? A couple of reasons that we can consciously begin to let go of ways that mistakes might unconsciously hinder us in this life are what we're going to talk about. And those hindrances can keep us from getting what we really want, and also hinder us in our spiritual evolution, which I believe you're all committed to since you are here. So today my goal is to help us embrace some mistakes we've made or we will make. And I don't want to, implant that into our brains, but it's likely we may make one or two more in our lifetime. Yet we can transform them into some positive experiences. Being alive means likely we'll make a mistake or two. Now, at the core of this, we can do this by practicing the 3 R's surrounding mistakes: rename, reframe, and reclaim. Now, more on this as we go along together, but most of us here of a certain age will remember the three R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. I think there was even a song about it. I'm not sure where it all started, but not long ago in my job as news, we did a little lower third. It's a little tagline you might see at the bottom of the story, and I think this was for a tease. I don't remember, but I put on there, reading, writing, and arithmetic coming up next, or whatever the story was. And a young reporter came up to me afterward, the newscast, and said, "Orlinda, I don't think that's how you spell arithmetic." And she was right, of course. That's not R-I-T-H-M-A-T-I-C isn't how we spell arithmetic, but it was, of course, an old saying, an old phrase. And I laughed and explained to her that probably most people in our demographic watching our newscast would understand that reference, but not all. So it was a good lesson for me that mistakes are in the eye and possibly the age of the beholder. So it was kind of a fun lesson that not to assume everyone knows that old phrase. So now a little bit more about those mistakes that I showed you. George Crumb, a chef in Florida, had a customer who kept returning his fried potatoes. He wanted them crisper, and the chef finally had it. And so he sliced the potatoes really thin and he fried them until they were almost burnt and served them up and said, here you go. How do you like that? Well, turns out he did like them. And some of the other customers tried them and they liked them. And so began the potato chip. And these were intended to be springs by a naval engineer, Richard James, in 1943. He was trying to keep fragile instruments steady on a ship. And he knocked over one of the springs from his shelf and he watched it do that famous slinky walk, which I could never get it to do when I was a kid. But his wife thought it would be fun for children. And by 1945 at Christmas, hundreds of these slinkies were being sold as toys. And a lot of other uses too. It was an antenna for soldiers in Vietnam. And nowadays it's a physical therapy tool for some. So in both of these cases, the inventors renamed their mistake, reframed it into something useful, and reclaimed victory in what was first considered a mistake. Now, learning about those who turn mistakes into money makers can be a reminder to look at our mistakes a little bit differently. I don't know for you, but for me, I can be pretty hard on myself when I feel I've made a mistake, and maybe I'm the only one. I had this lovely green bowl that had been in my father's family for a long time. And, passed down to me when I was cleaning out my dad's house. I kept it in a box for years. I moved that thing, I think, from Wyoming to Colorado to California, back to Montana. And finally, I decided I'm not going to just keep these things in a box anymore, right? I'm going to put it out. It's pretty. I'm not going to what am I saving it for? So I set it on kind of a low coffee table behind the dining room table. One day I was working on my computer and I got that message, oh, you need your power's about out. So I quickly plugged in my computer cord and plugged it into the wall. And I put the cord over the top of that small table near that beautiful green bowl. I heard a voice right then to say, don't do it that way. And I thought, it's fine. It'll be fine. I know what I'm doing, right? I'll remember that cord's there. Well, sure enough, 15 minutes later, when I was done with my computer, I stood up, took off for the other room, tripped over the cord. It wiped that beautiful green bowl onto the hardwood floor and it smashed in many, many pieces. I was devastated. Rationally, of course, I know it's just a thing. But I had a big emotional attachment to that bowl. It was the only thing from my father's side of the family. And it reminded me of Christmas because it only came out at that time of year. My mother probably realized how fragile it was. It had Christmas candy in it. Plus, it was very beautiful. It was pleasing to the eye. And here I'd finally decided I'm not going to keep those precious things in a box. I'm going to leave them out. And look what happens, right? Perhaps the most devastating thing was that I heard that voice inside my head. It was divine guidance, no matter how small, said, don't do that. Take 2 more seconds to put that cord underneath the table. I didn't heed it. I knew better. I didn't accept the help from that divine voice. It would have just taken me a minute to change the situation. Now you might say, well, it's just a bowl, and it was, but this is, I believe, how the divine shows up for us in great mistakes or in small ways with that voice. It took me a long time to see this mistake as an opportunity. And I said, oh, I'm just dumb. I didn't listen, right? And I held on to that mistake for a very long time. In fact, I gathered up all the pieces of that bowl. I put them in a Ziploc bag back into a box, and I moved that box around with me to many other places, including here in Bozeman. I held on to that mistake literally and figuratively in consciousness and in physical form for a very long time. Now, of course, we can benefit from our mistakes. And before we get into that, let's talk about that problem of holding on to mistakes, the difference between learning and moving on and holding on. Fear of making a mistake often keeps us from fully investing in this life. It can keep us frozen from making a move or a change, doing something we've always wanted to do. It can result in fear of expressing ourselves. If you suffered from a criticism at work, you might fear to express a creative idea, fear of that criticism. How about dancing? How many of us love to dance, but we've been told, or we look at ourselves and we feel, oh, I'm afraid to dance in public. So dwelling on a fear can affect your future work quality, your love of dancing, any boldness or creativity because of that presence of a fear from a past mistake. Worry and admonishment after making a mistake can imprison us in a life of regret. I know I've experienced that. And that keeps us from living our life in the way that best expresses our soul self right now. Might be a regret over being in a past relationship or not accepting a past relationship, whatever. That regret can really imprison us from moving on. At least I've experienced that. And when your mind is full of negative thoughts, you attract other negative thoughts and experiences, right? That's the teaching, perhaps the main teaching of science of mind that we study here at HCCL. Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, received the message and teaches that there's only one law in the universe, the law of mind and action. The law is a blind force, and whatever goes into the subjective state, our thought tends to return again as some condition. So simply put, you've heard it before, your thoughts create your life. When we are in a negative state, it's really not possible to be very efficient and effective in the rest of our life. It affects our confidence. And in the case of the bowl, it certainly wasn't life or death. But interestingly enough, and I don't think it's a mistake or doesn't have a connection, I started to break other things, only things that were of importance. Ceramic bowl my mom had made one time years ago had special meaning to me. I didn't break any of the dime store stuff that could be replaced, the things I didn't care about. I started breaking things that had meaning to me. Now, I'm not sure, but when I really started thinking about it and did some honest reflection, I was like, wow, am I starting this cycle of that I need to be punished, or I don't deserve good things, or what is really happening here? And I also had not practiced any non-attachment. While it was just a bowl, I can see how that mindset can keep cycling around in different ways. And it brings me to another problem holding on to our mistakes. Feeling miserable isn't a great state to be in. Our emotions affect how we think and we act, and it can carry on long after we are conscious of what's creating a negative state. And I do want to say right here, I recognize that we all go through far greater experiences than breaking a special dish. And some of you may be in the midst of something else causing you a great concern in your life. The bowl, of course, works as a parable, really, how a simple mistake or something larger can have impacts that we may not even realize in our lives long after they happen. And that's one reason we may want to consider releasing old mistakes or pay attention to those that might happen in the future. We can often respond to mistakes or a loss in one of three ways. We can withdraw, go to the corner, say, I'm not playing this game, I can't win. We can obstruct. Maybe a politician we didn't want to win wins, and we start rooting for that person to fail. Maybe another person got a promotion at work, and we start talking badly about them. We wanted that promotion. But what we need to remember, and what religious science teaches us, is that when we are obstructing anything in our lives, any good for anyone, we're sacrificing it in our own life for our own good. So to get back in the game and work for the highest good, we want to maybe call that person that got the promotion and offer support. We lose an argument. May want to say, hey, I'm sorry. How can I make this better and move forward? We always have the choice to make a change. That's an important foundation to have in place. Another very important foundation to have in place is, what are our virtues? What qualities, God qualities, do we desire to live by every day? Now, there may be many, but I'm going to give you just a few seconds to think about 3 virtues that you like to incorporate into your life every day. It might be peace, kindness, or honesty. What might be 3 that pop up for you? Got 1 or 2? Well, here's how we can use those virtues and remembering those virtues in our everyday life. Can I do my best to win each day? And if you have at least 3 of those virtues in place, peace of mind, integrity, compassion, whatever it is in any situation, a mistake or any situation with yourself or others, then you have made that day a success. Reverend Josh Reeves recently talked about mistakes at Mile High Church in Denver, and he said a mistake is different than an accident. An accident happens on its own. A mistake takes effort. Now, whether or not you believe that, bear with me for a moment, that a mistake is intentional, although sometimes it might be unconscious. He says that when doing something wrong, it's intentional at some level, and that's the science of mind teaching. A mistake can be doing something wrong, but we have the opportunity to make it right. We have the power of choice, and that is reclaiming those 3 R's of mistakes: renaming, reframing, and reclaiming success. And that becomes an important part of living, moves us into becoming our complete self, to learn and move on. Our past failures can seem a great lesson, but only if we approach it with that right mindset. With the mindset of learning from it and moving on, not packing it up in a box and carrying it with us. Now, if Thomas Edison dwelled on his mistakes, he'd have been stuck on his first light bulb, and by the way, it failed. Instead of going on to test another 9,999 prototypes to invent the world's first working light bulb. Our past mistakes are feedbacks that are here to help us alter our direction, get to our destination. There are some gifts from making mistakes. I'll name 3 of them. Humility. That can be a vehicle to the genuine. It helps us recover what's most essential. I had some humility, even though it was just myself, not listening to that still small voice, thinking I knew about plugging that cord in, that I wouldn't screw up and trip over it. Another gift from making our mistakes is it helps us to remember those virtues. Holding on to those virtues, we don't ever lose or make a mistake that cannot be recovered from. A real mistake is when we give up our virtues. Staying in our virtues guarantees success, guarantees choice. Sometimes it's not easy. We can have that virtue of patience, and then somebody cuts us off on traffic. Woo, that virtue's gone. But we can always reclaim it. An important thing to remember is that things can go wrong, but you can't go wrong. Things can go wrong, but I can't go wrong. Our Science of Mind text says that God makes no mistakes, and we believe here we are all a part of God. Science of Mind says mistakes rest in the experience of man. Of course, that's mankind or humankind, although some of us might like to blame the men for all the mistakes in our lives. But of course, we mean humankind. All mistakes rest in the experience of man, not in man, in the experience of man, just in our experience here on earth. So we need to neutralize what we think of as a mistake so that they no longer have power of us, because a mistake is just an experience we are having here. It's not us. We're not a mistake. A few ways to neutralize what we think of a mistake so that they no longer have power of us include simply remembering, being aware, and not beating ourselves up. That bowl incident might not seem like much, it's a bowl, but it added to my bank account of, oh, I'm so stupid, I can't do anything right, yada, yada. Why did I do that? Why didn't I listen? And that, my friends, is not an account that we want to keep depositing into. It held power over me. It was better for me to neutralize that mistake so that it no longer has that power. Mistakes are a perception of something that happens, and we need to develop some tools so that they no longer have that power over us. One of those things is to hold on to our virtues, no matter what they are for us. And here's something that works better when it comes to mistakes. And I'm going to start that with a quote by James Hillman. He's a psychologist. He wrote Soul's Code and other books you may know of. He says, I can't change what happened, but I can change my relationship with the past. I can't put that bowl back together in those pieces, but I can change my relationship with that situation, change our experience of it. Science of Mind says the same thing too, right? Change your thinking, change your life. Yeah, no amount of thinking is going to put that bowl back together, but renaming, reframing, reclaiming my personal belief or my attitude, gaining a lesson from going forward. Now I take the time to put that cord under the table. All of that can reframe that mistake into a change, makes the past better and our future a little brighter. So 3 things. We want to take responsibility and embrace responsibility for a mistake because sometimes it shows us a path forward. If we didn't make mistakes, we might not know what we want, right? I was at the Big Dipper in Helena not long ago, and I was all ready with the flavor that I wanted. And then I saw the special was coffee crunch or something. I thought, ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to switch. I didn't really like it. I wanted to pout a little bit, but I thought, well, now I know next time, go with that gut instinct to get something I really want. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It takes some courage. Perfect is boring. Creativity comes sometimes in making a mistake. And here's the thing, when we don't admit to our mistake and maybe work with it a little bit, we're bound to repeat it. When we acknowledge it, we find wisdom. Take a moment when we do something we feel has been a mistake and say, is there a message in this mistake I'm being called to hear? Listen and trust that inner voice. Don't plug the cord in that way, Orlinda. Ask God, did you mean to do that? Because we are all a part of God, and we can at any moment say, hey, did you mean for me to do that? And if so, what's the message here? I might not be getting it. By asking, hey, did God mean that? That can help us get back on track. We can also stop trying to be perfect. Just be genuine. It's the mistakes that often help us connect with people. Great mistakes are an opportunity to say the wrong thing, do the right thing. We always have that choice to apologize or correct. We can be open to changing our mind. Hold that belief that everything we do has some value. May just be different than we thought at first. And most important, may need to really work on letting go of emotional attachment to a mistake. And that brings me back again to the bowl. I carried it around for a long time, those pieces. And then I decided I was going to send them to a friend of mine in California. She's an artist and she does a lot of glass work. She has a big kiln or whatever that melts it and she makes things. And I sent her these pieces of glass and I said, any possibility you can make something else out of this? She said, I'll give it a try. Now that wasn't quite the end of my letting go of that attachment, because I had in my mind, and I might have mentioned to her, I thought, well, maybe they could be cut into little pieces and I could hang them as a little wind chime. That's what I had in my mind, but I didn't communicate that clearly. I said, well, maybe a wind chime, or do whatever you can do with them, whatever comes to you. And she did. And she sent back 2, if you can see they're kind of a ceramic, I guess, a little flower, and they have a thing on the back. I could hang them up. But I haven't, because you know why? They weren't what I had pictured in my mind. I had not communicated clearly to her, and that was my mistake. I could have drawn a little something. I could have picked someone here to make what I wanted. I'd be there. So there were so many lessons in that, right? I have to let go of that emotional attachment to it. I had to learn in this case, be clear about what you want. And isn't that what we say with our spiritual mind treatment? Be very clear. And then let go. If I was willing to turn it over to her, I had to let go of that. And I will find a place for these, but I still work through it sometimes. I go, oh. So I renamed it as something different. I reframed it, and now I need to still work on reclaiming it as a victory of success. So when you have a life that's based on who you truly are, no amount of change can shake you. No amount of uncertainty can bring instability. And that's a quote from, I don't know who she is, Marty and Nelson, but I saw it. She has a book called Coming Home. When you have a life that's based on who you truly are, no amount of change or a mistake, I would say, can change you. No amount of uncertainty or mistakes can bring you instability. Now, one of my favorite things that was a mistake that I think I couldn't live without, sticky notes. 1968, as the story goes, Spencer Silver trying to develop a super strong adhesive for 3M Laboratories, and he gave them to the people in the office to test out, and they said, no, they don't stick, which is what he'd expected them to do. But people loved them. They loved the idea of the sticky note that they could move around and mark pages in a book and change them. He invented the opposite of what he planned, an adhesive that stuck to objects but could be easily lifted off. Of course, they were produced as Post-it notes in 1980, and I think there were at least one of 3M's biggest money makers. So I have something written on this little Post-it note, a word that we often say when we make a mistake. If kids are around, oops, there might be another 4-letter word sometimes we say. And I've come up with an acronym for this. A mistake is an opportunity for other possible success. Or how about one omniscient presence of spirit? If you come up with one you might like, maybe we can share it in announcements if we have time. Rename, reframe, and reclaim success. In Science of Mind, it should be understood that we demonstrate in spite of ourselves, right? It can be done by design or by default. So if we make a mistake, we want to reframe it. Pay attention to it so we don't repeat it. It's often said a mistake is made until it's acknowledged. And when it's acknowledged, it becomes wisdom. Our job isn't to try to become perfect people. Our job is to co-create, using our mistakes and that divine power within, to be the best we feel we are, that we can be, and not to compare that with someone else. We don't stay fixed. Everything is fluid. All of nature, as I mentioned earlier, today I look out the window, it's gone from sun to rain to snow to sun. Nature is fluid, right? And it's beautiful. Nature and our evolution is beautiful. And if you're struggling right now, maybe you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. But don't hold on to that mistake or that trouble. Take some time to go within and ask if there's a reason for this. What can we learn from this? It's a power for healing, and it brings more of what you want each day. So there are many methods we can practice and apply those spiritual principles every day. And one of them is just to take a little bit of time to center and to perhaps do a little meditation, a little bit letting go. And I'll ask Zach. I don't know where Josh, I'm still thinking of Reverend Josh, I guess. Zach, to perhaps play a little bit of meditation music for us here so that we can wrap this all up in some prayer, some intention. And I invite us once again to notice our breath, because the moment that we focus on our breath, our mind tends to let go of the chatter. Deep breathing. And I'll turn this now back to Deb or whomever might have the announcements for us today. And Deb, I think you're on mute. There we go.
Thank you for steering me in another direction rather than beating myself up, knowing that if I rename, reframe, and reclaim, it becomes a learning opportunity. For example, the person who keeps butting into the recording saying this is being recorded and this is, she's never shown up before. So I'm going to rename her. I don't know what yet, but it's not going to be what I've been calling her. and figure out how to get her to be resting quietly during our time together. So thank you, Orlinda.
That's okay. You know, Deb, it kind of occurred to me when that kept happening. It's almost like what we teach in Science of Mind. Really, all our thoughts and everything is being recorded, you know, to kind of give us to produce what we want. So there could be a little message there. So, you know, pay attention to what what we want recorded, I guess.
Well, I guess
See, there's no mistakes. There's a lesson in that as well, we hope.
you are making it into a slinky, and I appreciate that. So announcements this morning are coming from Mitzi. Mitzi, are you set to go?
I think it was Diane, so it caught me off guard. I'm the fourth one, but I have the little sheet in front of me, so we'll go for it. I want to just remind everybody that the talk is being recorded, and if they'd like to listen again, which is definitely worth it, to watch for their email or e-blasts. And that our board has revisited every month whether we will continue to hold services via Zoom. And we want everyone to put July, this is 11th. That is the day that we would like to have everyone that can, please, to show up at HCCL. And if not, we are planning to have a hybrid so that if you cannot show up, we would also have a Zoom for you. Thank you, Zach, for helping us with tech support that allows us to meet via Zoom for every Sunday. And I didn't get in on the Curiosity Cinema last month, Deb, but would you tell us about the upcoming Curiosity Cinema on the third Thursday at 6:30?
So our last cinema was this last Thursday, and we watched the movie Heel, and it's pretty remarkable. And Curiosity Cinema is going to go on vacation for June, July, and August. Because I know, you know, you'll be outside and being with family and friends. So we'll see you in September for the next Curiosity Cinema.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Deb. And as far as letting everyone know, we have continued to donate to Helena Food Share. And also HCCL was very generous. And as soon as Barta comes to my house, she will also receive a check from HCCL to help her with expenses during this difficult time. If Catherine is here, she could maybe update us on Family Promise.
I believe she's traveling, so I don't think she's here.
Okay, I think we're good until August, so that's fine. And then we want to thank everybody for their ongoing financial support. Checks and online donations are always welcome. And as many noticed, there is a donate tab on the website that you can find a link to donate. And you can either mail a check to HCCL using 25 South Ewing Suite 214, or you can drop your check under the door, which is the least techie form of all. We want everyone to watch for their HCCL newsletter, lovingly brought to you by Reverend Jean and Tricia. That'll tell us what's going on. And that appears in your email by the 1st of the month. My next question is, who has a birthday in May that would like to admit it? I think we've recognized some, but
I turned 67 on the 12th.
all right, Barta, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're a
thank
young
you.
six.
And
Young
thanks
six.
for the donations. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anyone else? For the good of the cause. Okay, and our next speaker, I think Rosie's here, but I believe is Reverend Jean for next month. And I am sorry, but I don't know the title of her talk, but whatever it is, it will be very interesting. At this point, I'd like to ask if I've missed anything and if anyone has anything to add. Back to you, Dr. Deb.
Oh, you covered it all, Mitzi.
Did I? Thank you.
Well, nobody's speaking up. So thank you so much for letting everyone know what's happening in our sweet, loving, and totally viable living group. So Orlinda, will you come back and take us out with the treatment as we move forward in our week?
Yes, I'll do just a benediction for us, and we're ready for that now. Okay. All right. I give thanks for everyone who is in this Zoom meeting today, who may be listening to this call another time. You are to be commended for taking your time to commit to your spiritual deepening and to this community of HCCL. Give great thanks to all who have donated to keep the center going, to help our friends and who are in need at any particular time. It's truly wonderful, and it's truly embracing and employing the law of circulation for good. We go forth into this day, this week, into our life, knowing that things can go wrong, but we cannot go wrong. God does not make mistakes. We are not a mistake. At any time, we have that absolute power of choice to rename, reframe, and reclaim anything that feels like a mistake or a burden or worry. Simply by connecting consciously to that inner divine presence, seeking wisdom in everything we do from our past and as we move forward. We allow God to show up in every experience, in all that we do, in all we are. That divine presence I call God, I call it good. I call this day a wonderful time together. And so it is.
Thank you, Orlinda. Everyone, enjoy this precious day and as you move forward this precious week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Orlinda. It was
Mhm.
wonderful. Very
Thanks,
enjoyable.
everyone.
Did we all love the Big Bird song? Yay.
Yeah, thank you for singing along and bopping along with Big Bird.
Yeah.
Orlinda, that was a good message, an important message, and thank you.
Yes,
Well, thank you,
Diane.
thank you, Diane.
They'll cut off at the
Yeah.
nose.
I think that's
Thank
who that
you.
was.
It was
Alrighty.
awesome.
But
Awesome. We're going to go out and make mistakes.
do it. And practice going out, make that mistake, then get that divine wisdom to change them into something good.
Great.
I'm gonna eat these
Thank
now.
God he plays.
Bye,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.